The new recruit, based on the title. This 4-foot alien girl took me down and made me respect her kind. The training camp on Moon Base 7 was always loud. Soldiers from 100 planets trained there. Big ones, tall ones, spiked, scaled, glowing. But when a new group arrived that morning, everyone turned their heads for a very different reason. A tiny figure stepped off the transport shuttle. She was only 4 feet tall, slim, quiet, and wearing a dark suit that looked too big on her small frame. Her hair was silver blue, her skin pale like moonlight, and her eyes were glowing softly violet. Some of the soldiers laughed. "She's smaller than my kid sister," one grunt said. "Did someone bring a pet?" Another joked. Jackson leaned against the wall and smirked. He had been through real battles against pirates on Titan, against rebels in the Mars domes. He didn't take children seriously. And this girl? She looked like she'd break if someone sneezed too hard, but she didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. Her name was Valari, and she was from a species Jackson had never heard of before. VKR, a dot no one had. The instructors called for combat drills. Hand-to-hand sparring. Nothing deadly, just enough to test speed, strength, and control. Each recruit had to face off in the arena. Jackson waited for his turn, expecting someone big. Maybe that gorilla-shaped Tharn soldier he'd seen earlier. When his name was called, they paired him with Valari. The laughter returned. Jackson stepped forward, raising an eyebrow. "You sure about this, little one?" Valari just looked up at him. No smile. No fear. A countdown began. 3.2. 1. Fight. Jackson moved fast. Not too fast, he didn't want to hurt her, but fast enough to end it quickly. He reached out to grab her shoulder, and suddenly the world flipped. He slammed into the floor so hard it knocked the air out of his lungs. For a moment, he couldn't move. Her knee was on his chest. Her small hand gripped his wrist in a painful lock. Everyone went silent. She leaned in and said, calm and cold, "You think size matters, human?" Then she let go and stepped back like nothing happened. Jackson gasped, blinking at the ceiling. "What just happened?" The instructor nodded. "Winner, Valari." Whispers filled the room. The laughter was gone. That night, Jackson sat alone in the mess hall, a bruise forming on his ribs. He couldn't stop thinking about the fight. Her movements were faster than any human he'd seen. Her grip, like iron, and her eyes. There was something ancient behind them, something tired, something powerful. He opened his tablet and searched the Galactic database. No detailed info on the Vikra, just rumors. Some said they lived on high-gravity planets where normal humans couldn't even walk. Some said their kind once served as royal guards to forgotten empires. Others said they vanished from galactic records hundreds of years ago. Whatever the truth was, he had felt it in her strength. The next morning, Jackson saw Valari training alone. Her strikes were clean, sharp, focused. He walked over. "Want a rematch?" he asked, half grinning. Valari looked at him. This time, there was a small smile. "Just a hint. Only if you're ready to lose again." Jackson laughed. "You're not like the others." "I know." He paused, then asked, "Why? Are you here?" She turned her gaze to the sky dome above. Stars shimmered behind the gloss. "I have reasons," she said softly. "And some people to prove wrong." Jackson didn't push. But something changed in him. He no longer saw a small alien girl. He saw a warrior, strength and silence, from the story. This 4-foot alien girl took me down and made me respect her. Kind. The second day of training began with storm alarms. Moon Base 7's outer sensors had picked up a solar flare burst. That meant partial power loss, flickering lights, An unstable gravity for a few hours. The instructors weren't happy. Adapt, improvise, survive, one of them shouted. You want to be elite? Then act like it. Jackson grunted as he pulled. On his boots, his ribs still hurt from yesterday. The bruise Velari left on him was purple and deep. Most soldiers gave him space now. He wasn't just the guy who lost a fight. He was the guy who got destroyed by a girl half his size. And Velari? She trained alone again, silent and focused. That silence bothered Jackson more than anything. She didn't show off. Didn't try to prove anything. She didn't smile when others failed. She simply moved like water, like wind, like she belonged. In combat more than she belonged anywhere else. Later that day, Jackson approached her near the gravity chamber. She was lifting a steel training cube 1, meant for heavy planet warriors. It weighed 600 pounds. Velari lifted it like it was nothing. You hiding power levels from us? He asked, only half joking. She set it down gently, then turned. My world had 10 times Earth's gravity. If you didn't grow strong, you didn't grow at all. Jackson blinked. How? How does that not break your bones? Our bones are not like yours, she said. They're compact, dense, reinforced through evolution. He stared at her, really stared. She looked so young, so fragile. But that wasn't what she was. Not even close. You ever break someone's bone by accident? He asked. Velari looked away. Yes. A long silence followed. Later that night, the lights dimmed across the base. The solar flare was hitting hard now. Power cut across most of the halls. Some training zones were fully offline. Jackson left his room to get some air and noticed a shadow move in the hallway. It was Velari. She was walking toward the edge of the base where no one trained. Curious, he followed her quietly. She stepped outside the hangar into the rocky moonscape. And then she screamed, but it wasn't a normal scream. It was silent like a breathless cry. Her fist slammed into a large boulder. Once, twice, then again. The rock cracked. Then it shattered. Jaxon froze. He had never seen her like this. She fell to her knees, breathing hard, shaking. Her fists were red, not from pain, from control, because she had held back. And then he heard her whisper, "You told me to be small." So I was, but I still feel like a monster. Jackson stepped out into the light. Velari turned sharply, ready to strike, but stopped when she saw him. "You followed me?" she asked quietly. "I didn't mean to. I wanted to understand." Her violet eyes held us for a long time. "There's nothing to understand," she said. "I joined this program to escape. But even here, I'm just the small girl with dangerous strength. That's all they see." Jackson stepped closer. "Not me." She frowned. "You laughed at me." "I did," he admitted. "And you threw me like a rag doll." She almost smiled. Almost. "You're holding back all the time, aren't you?" he asked. Velari nodded. "If I don't, I might break someone again." Jackson sat beside her on the moon rock. "I've been in 100 fights," he said. "But I've never feared someone the way I feared you, because you chose mercy. That takes real power." She didn't reply, but her breathing slowed. Then she said something he didn't expect. "They trained me to kill kings." Jackson blinked. "What?" Velari stood, brushing moon dust off her knees. "You asked where I came from. You'll get your answer soon, but it won't be easy to hear." As she walked back toward the base, Jackson looked up at the stars. Something about her wasn't just different. It was dangerous. Not because of her power, but because of her past. The target on her back, from the story. This 4-foot alien girl took me down and made me respect her kind. 3 days had passed since Jackson saw Velari break the boulder. Since she whispered the words, "They trained me to kill kings." Those words didn't leave his mind. He tried to focus on drills, simulations, and weapon handling, but every time he looked at Velari, he wondered, who trained her? Why? What had she been through? Others on the base noticed her too now. But not in a good way. Some recruits were afraid of her. Others were jealous. "She's hiding something," whispered a blue-scaled fighter named Drovik. "She's dangerous," said a tall Martian soldier. "She doesn't belong in this unit," muttered another .JAXON, heard it all. He stayed quiet. But he knew the truth. They weren't mocking her anymore. They feared her and fear leads to trouble. That night, the base lights were dim. Solar flare warnings still caused energy drops. Jackson was heading back from late training when he heard something in the shadows, a soft crash. A grunt, metal scraping. He froze. Then he heard her voice. "Let me go." Jackson rushed toward the sound. Behind one of the storage halls, 3 recruits had surrounded Velari. They weren't training. They were trying to teach her a lesson. Big mistake. One grabbed her arm. Another blocked her path. The third tried to swing a stun rod. In a flash, she moved. Jackson couldn't believe what he saw. Velari twisted under the rod, kicked the tall one in the knee. His legs snapped with a loud crack. She grabbed the second by his wrist and flipped him hard into a wall. The third tried to run. She leapt forward, tapped his back, and he froze, paralyzed by nerve pressure. 3 bodies down in 5 seconds. She didn't bleed. She didn't shout. She just stood there, breathing slowly, staring at her hands like they didn't belong to her. JAXO, and stepped out. "Velari, stop. It's over." She turned, her eyes glowing softly. "They attacked first," she said coldly. "No, I saw it." She stepped away from the fallen men. "I didn't mean to break him. I held back. I always hold back." Jackson nodded. "That was you holding back?" She didn't answer. Instead, she looked at him with tired eyes. "Do you still want to know the truth?" They met in the supply chamber, far from cameras. Velari stood near the old cargo crates, arms folded. "My planet is not part of the Union. The Vikra were forgotten long ago," she began. "But 100 years ago, someone remembered us. And they came." "Who?" Jackson asked. "Humans, soldiers, scientists, not like you. Cold, cruel." She looked down. "They found that our species was useful. Our gravity-adapted strength, our fast reflexes, our discipline. So they made offers or threats." Jackson's eyes narrowed. "What kind of threats?" "They took the young, promised training, glory, purpose. But they trained us for assassination. In secret, Black Ops missions. We were never part of the public records. We were weapons." Jackson was silent. Velari leaned against the wall. "My parents were killed in a training accident. My brother vanished during a mission. I was one of the last they trained." She looked at him now. "I wasn't supposed to survive, but I did. I escaped and joined the UPF." Jackson said, "No, I joined this unit because the man who led the weaponization program is still alive, still powerful." She paused. "And he's here, on this moon." Jackson's stomach turned. "You mean ... "Yes," she said. "The human general who commands this base. The weight she carries from the story. This 4-foot alien girl took me down and made me respect her kind." Jackson sat frozen. Velari's words echoed in his mind like thunder in a quiet room. "Humans did. You're saying." He tried to speak. "Your people, the Vikra, were created by humans?" Velari nodded once. "In secret labs, hundreds of years ago. During the Great Expansion War, When Earth couldn't win with ships and weapons, they started making living ones. She looked down at her hands, small, slim, powerful. They made us strong, fast, silent. We were born in tanks, trained in silence, and told only one thing: obey the mission. Jackson couldn't believe it. His own species ... had built hers. But the war ended, Villari continued, and we were no longer needed. So they buried the records, shut the labs. Some of us escaped, most didn't. Jackson whispered, "You were erased." She nodded. We scattered, became myths, ghosts. Some worlds treat us like monsters. Others don't believe we exist. He rubbed his face. And now, you're here, in the same force that once used you. I joined to find the truth, to find out who gave the final order to shut down the program, to leave us to die. Her voice didn't shake, but her eyes burned. Jackson stood and grabbed his datapad. Then let's find out, together. Villari blinked. You would help me? He nodded. I owe you, not just for beating me, but for showing mercy, for being more human than most humans. I've met. She looked away, but a tiny smile tugged at her lips. That night, they snuck into the base archives. The data core was sealed, but Villari's hands moved fast over the keys. Jackson stood watch, nervous. If they were caught, they'd be punished. Or worse. Files flashed across the screen, classified military documents, Black Ops reports, redacted names. Then one file appeared, unlocked, labeled, Project Gravesong status, terminated species, type, genetically enhanced combat class humanoid, codename, Vikro. Valerie's breath hitched. She opened the file. There were videos, training simulations, brutal field missions, even medical experiments. Jackson had to look away. Then they found the authorization stamp. Chen. Adrian VOS Earth Command. Alpha Division. Jackson stepped back. That's my old general. Villari stared at the name. Her hands clenched. He gave the order to end the program. She whispered. He called us unstable, unnecessary, and too expensive to maintain. But he didn't just shut it down, Jackson added. He tried to erase you. Villari stood in silence, then looked Jackson in the eyes. Now I know who I'm here for. Just then, the alarm blared. Intrusion detected. Lockdown in progress. They had been found. Lights turned red. Doors began sealing across the base. Run! Jackson shouted. They dashed down the hallway as metal gates slammed behind them. Security drones flew from the ceiling. Villari grabbed a pipe from the wall and knocked one out midair. They escaped into the maintenance tunnels, crawling through tight metal shafts. When they finally stopped, hidden behind a cooling unit, they caught their breath. Jackson looked at her. What now? Villari's voice was calm. Now we finish what they started. But this time, on our terms. The broken truth from the story. This 4-foot alien girl took me down and made me respect her kind. Villari and Jackson stayed low in the cooling tunnel. Above them, alarms still blared. Red lights flashed through every hallway of Moonbase. 7. Guards were everywhere. Drones scanned the air. General Vuss had activated full lockdown. He knew someone had found his secret, and he knew who it was. Jackson whispered, They'll be searching for both of us now. Villari nodded. They won't stop until we're caught or silenced. Jackson checked his datapad. I saved the full Gravesong file on a hidden chip. If we can get to the Combs Tower, we can upload it to the Galactic Public Archive. Everyone will know what he did. Villari's voice was steady. He will try to stop us, personally. Jackson looked at her. Then we show him what the Vecra really are. They moved through maintenance shafts, past storage halls, through dark vents and empty corridors. Every few minutes, guards passed by, shouting into radios. Team Alpha, sweep Corridor 7. Subject Valerie must not leave the base. Use lethal force if necessary. Jackson's grip tightened. Lethal force? Against one girl? Valerie stayed quiet, focused, but her eyes said everything. They reached the main tower. It was tall, open, filled with antenna systems and blinking screens. But they weren't alone. Standing by the control panel was a tall man in a black uniform. General. Adrian Voss. His face was older than Jackson remembered, cold, sharp, unreadable. I expected rebels, the general said. Not a failed experiment, and a traitor. Valerie stepped forward. I'm not an experiment. I'm not a weapon. I'm a person. And your lies end now. General Voss raised a plasma pistol. You were designed to serve, nothing more. Jackson shouted, we have the files. Everything. We'll expose you. Voss laughed. No one will believe a ghost story and 2 runaways. By morning, this entire base will be reset. No trace, no proof. Valerie's body tensed. Her eyes began to glow. Erased our names from the records, she said softly. But you can't erase what I remember. Then she moved Dot in a blur of motion. She was gone from Jackson's side. Voss fired, but the blast hit empty air. Valerie was behind him in an instant. She knocked the gun from his hand, flipped over his shoulder, and slammed him into the wall. The general coughed, groaning, trying to fight, but her grip locked him down. She could have ended him, but she didn't. Instead, she looked at Jackson. Upload it, she said. Let the truth speak for itself. Jackson plugged the chip into the console. Uploading. 20%, 50%, 80%. Voss growled. If you send that, everything changes. The Union will hunt you. You'll never be safe. Valerie stepped back. We've never been safe. Upload complete. Across the galaxy, terminals lit up. News stations, citizen feeds, and war archives received a new file, Project Gravesong. Declassified? The galaxy now knew the truth. Alarms shut down. Guards stopped chasing. One by one, messages came in from command stations. They wanted answers. From vis.voar, I stood silently, watching the stars through the tower glass. We're trained to kill kings, she whispered. But all I wanted was to be seen. Jackson stepped beside her. You are now. One stood for many, from the story. This 4-foot alien girl took me down and made me respect her kind. For the first time since her arrival, Moon Base 7 was silent. No alarms, no commands, no laughter, only silence and stares. Valerie walked beside Jackson as they left the comms tower. Soldiers stepped back as she passed. Some looked afraid. Others looked ashamed. The truth had spread. Across the galaxy, the name Vecra was now known. Not as weapons, not as ghosts, but as survivors. General Voss had been arrested by Galactic Command within the hour. His face, once feared, now filled news screens under the title, War Criminal Behind Illegal Soldier Program Exposed. Valerie watched without emotion. Jackson stayed close. He didn't try to speak. He knew there were no words strong enough right now. By the next day, representatives from multiple species sent messages, some apologizing, some offering her protection, others asking questions. But Valerie didn't respond to any of them. She stood by the old stone yard behind the base, hands behind her back. Jackson approached slowly. You did it, he said softly. The galaxy knows now. Valerie didn't look at him. That wasn't my goal. Jackson tilted his head. Then what was? She finally turned. Her eyes weren't glowing now. They were soft, calm. My people still live in hiding, still afraid. I didn't want revenge. I wanted to open the door for them to come out and not be hunted anymore. She walked to the center of the stone yard and placed a small metal pin on the ground. It was shaped like her old training crest, simple, sharp, forgotten. She pressed a button. A blue light glowed upward, and a message was broadcast in her native tongue. Then in Galactic Standard. To all Vikra who can hear me, you are not alone. You are never mistakes. You are made strong, but you choose who you are. Come forward. We are free now. The message repeated, then again, and again. A week later, the base changed. The soldiers began speaking to Valari with respect. Some asked to train with her. Others simply nodded as she passed. She didn't show pride. She only showed peace. Jackson walked beside her near the launch pad. So, he asked, what's next for the galaxy's strongest 4-foot warrior? Valari smiled for the first time. I'll return home. Help rebuild. Maybe teach others. Maybe tell them about you. Jackson chuckled. What will you say? That not all humans are cruel. That one saw me for who I was, not what I was made to be. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a piece of his dog tag broken during training, but now polished. Keep this, she said, so you remember the day you were beaten by someone small. He laughed. Trust me, I'll never forget. As her shuttle lifted off, Jackson stood on the platform, watching her leave. She had come as a secret, a weapon, a mystery, but she left as something more, a symbol, a survivor, a voice for the forgotten, one who stood for many. The ND.